Let's go. We got my man, Jim Cotter III, AKA Jimmy C, AKA JC3. I don't know. I just made those up, but I'm feeling good. Jim, welcome to the show.
Man, I've been going by JC3 for way too many years, and the fact you didn't know that you just used it made my day.
Dude, I
You're
love
doing
it. I
great.
love it. I something that you might know, but everyone who's listening to this needs to know is I'm a big fan of nicknames, abbreviations. Like you got to have fun in the game of life, and calling someone by just their name isn't always the most fun. So you got to make it exciting. But Jim, we're going to get into it today. We're going to have some fun with it. And here's what I want to just dig in with is you are a AI machine. You are a guy that has built seven-figure business after seven-figure business. You've made some big pivots. You've made some changes, but none bigger than going into the world of AI. You're a tech guy. You're brilliant at this stuff. Talk to me a little bit about how this journey into AI really happened and why you are making a huge bet on the future of AI in the scope of businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, hard hitting question out of the gate. I love where this is going. How it all started was honestly, I had this passion for technology when I was really, really young. I was in scouting. My scoutmaster, he actually used to drop off computer parts at my dad's house because he was a computer repair technician. And that kind of gave me the edge very early on. And with that, I just had this like desire to build, to tinker, to put stuff together. And I started building Frankenstein computers and having a lot of fun. I had the best computer on the block out of all of my friends. And it was like this first insight into, man, what can I build? What's possible? And I think that's really where the creativity started for me. And I just really got into tech very early on. Pretty much everybody in my circle in the space just knows me as Jim, the tech guy, right? Not so much like my internet won't start, call Jim and he'll fix the router, but more like I have this business idea. I have this concept. Is there a way to do this? I've got this vision bigger than me. How do I make sense of it? Like I truly believe my superpower is taking really big concepts and being able to explain them really, really well, no matter where you are on the I identify as technical or non-technical spectrum. Because let's face it, anybody you talk to goes to one end or the other, and very few go to the technical end. Almost everybody goes to the non-technical end. And for the most part, I call BS on that. Because if you can operate the insanely smart device that's in your pocket or your purse, if you know how to build a business with your laptop, if you have this ability to do something by using anything with technology, you can. And I think that's really, I feel like this is my moment, right? I've been in the mixed reality space, building things. I've consulted with Fortune 15 companies and worked on a lot of these different ideas. Some people call me an AI expert. I humbly disagree. I feel that those experts are the people that have been in the field for decade after decade after decade building it. But I'm a specialist, I'm an integrator. I take the time to understand where businesses are at and help them get really creative, how they can use AI and put it into their world. Am I asking everybody to just drop everything and use it flat out? Of course not. Like anything, you've got to just want to lead into it a little bit and try it. And that's why I'm excited to talk to you today, man, and really just get into this and think about what it's like, both for building your business, for releasing your story by way of, telling something that is really, really special, like a book, or even if it's just quick, simple tips that anybody can implement. I feel like every business right now has a way to benefit from AI. I've yet to find a business model that just can't find any way to use it. And that's really exciting because when was the last time you were able to say that about almost anything?
Yeah, I mean that's huge, right? Is we're in a time where things are changing and AI is one of those things that is becoming more and more prevalent in the business world. And if you're not, it's no longer like, oh, you could be a first mover, you should try to be the one to do it. It's and maybe the technical term wouldn't be that, but it's, oh my gosh, if you're not going to adapt and you're not going to start learning it or being aware of it, you're going to end up falling behind. Right. And I think there's that shift, and I don't think we're there yet, but I think that the shift is starting to happen. And so I want to start very basic because I think there's a lot of people that hear AI and they either run the other direction or they're like, oh, I'm interested, but I have no real idea of like what AI tools are out there. Like, is it just ChatGPT? Is it just this? So let's start here. What are some of like the more popular tools when it comes to leveraging AI? And then what are some other ways that maybe we're not even aware of that could use AI in our lives?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. And I agree with you. It's not one of those you're already too late if you haven't jumped on. This is the perfect time to care enough about it to start exploring. And honestly, the best way to start exploring and figuring it out is to use some of these AI tools. Like I'm a recovering retired software engineer, and I really don't code much anymore. And that includes in the AI space. So coming from the tech guy, coming from the AI integrator, I don't write code. Yet I'm inundated with AI all day. I use it all the time. I use it as a complement to us recording this together right now. I just used it on a mastermind call that I previously had to take notes, to synthesize stuff. So there's so many ways that we can implement it into our world, and I'm glad you asked that. Now, the big names that are out there, let's just start with ChatGPT. That's the one that comes across from a software company called OpenAI, and they developed this incredible way of working with artificial intelligence by just simply having a conversation with it. No different than if you had a executive assistant that you sat down next to you, a research assistant, a CMO, an operations person, an editor, anybody, right? Any type of role. It gives you this profound ability to ask it questions where it has the knowledge for, or where you can train it with information. We'll talk about that. You can get almost anything you want out of it in a conversation form. That's probably the best way I can explain what ChatGPT does for you. Now, when you're faced with an unlimited amount of ways to do something, what do you typically do, right? It's the difference between going to the burger joint and saying, I want a burger because they sell burgers, and going to a diner and flipping through page after page after page and being like, man, I just don't know if I'm hungry anymore, right? It's that same problem that we face when it comes to AI. There's so many places we can start. I would challenge you, and this is what I love opening people up and thinking about, is actually be selfish when you use AI. Be selfish for a change. What are some of the things that continually holding you back from launching what you love into the world, from shipping more product, from getting more creative, from putting more content out to the world, from analyzing your customer data? What are those things? What do they do for you? Or what do they hold you back from doing? That's what I want you to think about. So let's think about a couple of examples. If you are sick and tired of managing your own calendar, you can install an AI tool that will connect to your calendar, make sense of your preferences, and actually adjust things and move them all around and have time after certain events to let you go to the bathroom, to drink water, to go for a walk, to do whatever you want to do. If you are on Zoom all day, which is like most of humanity that's remote working right now, you probably have recording after recording after recording, and you likely have to recap that meeting. You have to come back to it. You have to reference something. There are AI tools that will sit as a little counterpart to your Zoom meeting and let you just click some buttons like, oh, that was a really good moment, or this needs follow-up, and it'll recap and put all that together and say, these are the highlights of your meeting. You never have to rewatch a Zoom meeting again. How does that sound, right? And then you can keep going further. Let's just say you've got a raw video from that Zoom recording, and there's really good things in there that you would love to get out to the world. There are AI tools where you can upload that, and it'll automatically find the key points, the really good quotes. It'll clip it for you and give you a reel that's just ready to post. There's so many ways that AI is changing the game for a small business owner, or for those that just have a passion and want to get it out there into the world, that you just have to ask yourself, are you comfortable with status quo in every aspect of your life? Probably not, especially if you're listening to this show. So Jake, if they follow you, I know they're not status quo kind of caliber individuals. So that's where we're at, is are you willing to level it up and willing to think differently just enough to say, what if there was a way that I could make sense of that information that much quicker, that I could make that a little easier on me? So if you reclaimed a bunch of time, a bunch of cost, hey, even a bunch of team, if you had this ability to bring all that back, what could you do with that time? Could you be more balanced? Could you have more rhythm in your life? Could you refocus that energy and actually do more and make more money that much quicker? I know it sounds schemy and snake oily, but it's not. It's just those that are willing to try these tools that do one thing really, really well. It's profound what it can actually bring back to you. And that's my challenge, is think about it being selfish. If you have this ability to be able to use these things for free or freemium or even very cheap, I mean, if your hourly rate is anything less than, what one of these services charges you monthly, and that reclaims 1 hour of time, you're already net positive. So why not give it a shot?
Yeah, no, you make a great case on, where we can start to look at it and why we can start to benefit from it. What I'm curious about is, you mentioned pricing. I have a few different directions I want to take this, but I want to cover all the basics here. Is, oh, I'm unsure about AI. It probably costs me a lot of money. If it could do all of this stuff, that would replace an employee, does it cost me as much an employee? What are some of the pricing models that you've seen? And like, are there any ranges that you might be able to share with some of the tools so that we can know
Yeah.
like, oh, I might be in for, if I want this, and this, I might be in for 100 grand a month. I mean, $100 a month, not 100 grand a month. That would be a lot, but I might be in for $100 a month, but I can get 20 hours of my time back or whatever it is. Like, what is some of these pricing when it comes to some of these tools?
Yeah, most of the tools are free, freemium, or relatively cheap. And by relatively cheap, I mean about $20 a month or less. So it stands the question of like, okay, well, what's your hourly rate? Or what are you paying somebody to do some of these things for you? And are they doing them, or are you doing them enough every single month that it justifies that payment? So I'll give you some real examples. ChatGPT, currently, as of recording this, right now we're about middle of July recording this. Their plus tier, so ChatGPT Plus, is about $20 a month. I also use a service for generative AI, which is creating imagery and artwork and things like that for a lot of my email newsletters, for complimentary stuff for the products that I ship out, whatever that is. I use a service called Midjourney. That only costs $10 a month. The calendar service that I mentioned, that particular one, my favorite, it's called Reclaim.ai. And I think it's like $6 or $8 a month per account. I only use one account. It's just for me. So that right there, you can start to do the math. My hourly rate is substantially more than even just those three combined. But if I think of the value that I get just from having ChatGPT, and I use ChatGPT every day of my life now to complement what I do, that wildly adds efficiency to my time, helps me get that much further, that much faster, gives me ideas. I mean, I teach on it, I train on it. It's part of my day now. That's one thing. Cool. Can I justify 1 hour of savings with just that one thing for $20? You're absolutely right. Same with Midjourney, same with the calendar system, same with the other tools that I use. I gave another example about taking long videos and clipping them to get them out on social media. I try to post at least a few reels every single week. I'm trying to get to one a day. I face that same problem as everybody else, but tools like this help me get that much closer. So even if I paid for almost everything that I review, if I use it, and that's really key, if you're willing to commit to it and use it, just think of how superhuman that can help make you to let you go that much faster.
Yeah, and there's no harm in trying it too, right? Like anybody could try, sign up, try it out. They don't like it or they're not ready for it. Hey, you don't pay anymore. You cancel the membership, the subscription. So like it's no harm to try some of these things out. And let's dig in a bit here. You mentioned that there's something that takes a long form and turns it into short form. Okay. There's a lot of people that I know, and there's a lot of people that we work with who are authors, who are on podcasts like we're doing right now. You're going to have a long form thing. Well, what is this AI tool that could then help you take the long form and cut it into minute long, reel based form, TikTok based form, short form content?
There are all kinds of tools that are coming out to try to fill this gap. And like anything, you've probably been sold to, or you've experimented with the all-in-one type of thing. It doesn't always work for you because when you're faced with all the options, again, you don't like any of the options and it's just too complicated. What I'm seeing a lot of right now is single utility AI tools.
Okay.
So this tool does one thing really well. Don't try to use it for anything else. Just do this, right? They specialize, just like a specialist in a business. You wouldn't go to a hand surgeon to I don't know, pick another body part. There's a specialty and there's a reason that a hand surgeon only focuses on the hands. So where I'm seeing that benefit is using these individual tools. A couple that come to mind right now, what I love about these is they're built for long form videos. They compress long form videos really well. And by long form, I mean 15, 20 minutes to an hour. Doesn't really matter what it is. But a really cool way of using them that I've seen recently is you could just throw a YouTube video link in there and it'll download it for you. One less thing you have to do. or upload a Zoom file, upload a recording out of whatever you have. And it will take that recording, it will scan the whole thing and transcribe it. It will try to make sense of what's a good hard hitting moment, what makes sense, where's there's good pause, where's there emotion, how would this resonate? And it'll come up with its own virality score. It'll make sense of it. It'll clip it. It'll add captions. It'll throw emojis in there. It'll chop it. And it says, here you go. You can download it. You can post it, or you can do anything you want with it. Now, that all sounds great. And it sounds a little magical, but it is, right? If you're taking the time to do all that stuff yourself, what else could you be doing? If you're paying somebody to do that, again, if a tool like this is 10 bucks, 20 bucks, 30 bucks, and it gives you hours and hours and hours worth of video processing, how much would you be paying a video editor that would still take days to turn this around when a tool like this can turn it around in minutes? So you just have to ask yourself, what are the things that are holding me back? And I guarantee you've heard the same narrative before. And there's plenty of business coaches, plenty of those that are out there talking about, well, this is how you can maximize your time and do everything. I just vote, make the robots do it. Find an AI tool that does it really well, sign up for a free account, try it with one thing, see what happens. And it's really no different than trying Asana if you're currently on ClickUp, or trying Teams if you are sick of Zoom or Google Meet or anything. It doesn't really matter, but experiment and try. The difference here is that these AI tools are coming out so fast. There's so many of them. A lot of us don't know where to start. So one thing I do on Instagram every single day, I post a carousel of the top 5 really cool AI tools that I see coming around every single day. And for those keeping count, I just hit edition 60 of 5 a day. And I've still got another about 400 or 500 in the bank that I haven't even posted yet. And that's how fast they're coming out, Jake. So what I just recommend is just be aware of the things that are holding you back. And when you see something that might entice you, you likely have already seen a tool that could do something like that before. But if it's built with AI, and AI is driving it, especially for a content game now, where it's all about volume, just get more out, just get it out the door. It's worth trying, because you never know what that would do for your productivity or for your view count or for your engagement or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen your Instagram posts, and you're producing so many of these tools, and I'm like, you might need to now do a monthly recap of your top 5 best tools.
The digest of all the AI tools.
Yeah. But no, I love that. And what's the tool? What was the name of the tool that you were just talking about related to the social media aspect of it? What's the one tool that you like the most?
The explicit tool, the tool name that I currently am using is called Opus Pro. And I think it's opus.pro. There's another tool also out there that I've been using as well. I recently stopped using it just because I didn't need the extra flexibility for it. I just needed Reels, TikTok portrait style videos. But if you're interested in using long form videos, having more creative options around it, video.ai, it's VIDYO. If you search for that, it's a very interesting way of spelling it, but let's be honest, we've all run out of domain name options, so I'm not hating on them. But with that one, it gives you similar tools, but you can choose if you want them in square form, portrait form. It pre-processes them in a lot of different styles. You can rotate through them. So a lot of these tools are just giving you more and more opportunity to really just try and just to see what resonates with your audience. But yeah, currently, if you just need Reels, TikToks, and Jake, I see the content you're kicking out as well too, man. So it's just a volume game. If we can just get a good recording, chopped up, processed, captioned, ready to go, what would that be like? So we don't have to do that ourselves or pay a team member. We can resource that team member or our own time to do a lot more high value things.
Absolutely. So let's dig into it, because a lot of the people listening to the show are people that have books, are currently writing books, or are thinking about books. All right. Now, ChatGPT, as you mentioned, is one of the more popular platforms, AI tools that people are aware of. What are some of the ways that we could use ChatGPT in the writing process? What are some of the ways that you maybe have used it? I'll share some of the ways that I've used it after you go, but what are some of the ways that we can leverage it? Or what are some of the ways that we can prompt ChatGPT to better give us the right solutions? Because if you just say, write this, it can, but it's not the best approach. So it's a two-pronged question here. What are some ways that we can use ChatGPT if we are in the book writing process at any phase? And then what are some of the ways that we can best maximize the results we can get from that platform?
Yeah, it's a great question, man. And I'm so glad you asked, right? The most important thing everybody here needs to know is, please, under no circumstances, have ChatGPT write blog post, an open-ended thing, a book, and just publish it. Like, just don't do that. That's not what the tool is for. That's like saying, I'm going to hire an assistant and give them minimal information and say, just do all the work for me. Like, you're not going to be happy with it. It's not going to be correct. And you're probably going to waste time and money along the way. So that's the context we have to know about it going into it. Now, does that mean that it can't help us? Absolutely not. If we are really set on writing a book because we saw it, in a movie, that you got to buy a lake house and you've got to sit by the lake and you have to have the perfect setting and you're going to take your pen out and you got to do it by candlelight, the right music, or listening to the birds. Well, okay, sure. It's probably going to take you a while to write your book. Jake, you're nodding. I think you would agree with me. For those of us that are willing to step into technology and do things a little bit more creatively, try to advance that process a little bit more, and don't need the lake house vibe, there are a lot of ways that we can use tech in our favor. Now, ChatGPT is not the first AI writing assisted tool out there. There have been many before it. There will be many more after it. But what's fascinating about what ChatGPT gives us is it gives us this ability, again, to have a conversation with AI, to be able to get the output based off of natural language, the way that we speak, the way that we want to get things out. So let's say I want to come up with ideas for a book. You can go and you can ask ChatGPT for book ideas, and it'll say, I'm just looking at the stuff on my desk. So it'll say, sure, you can write a book about the importance of chapstick. You can also write about headphones. You can also write about Post-it notes. I have all these things on my desk right now. I'm holding them up. Are those the things you want to write a book about? Probably not. But here's a tip, and I'll throw some random AI tips in along the way because I love doing this. You can ask AI to masquerade or to act as a certain profile, a persona, an expert, an individual that knows something, and it's going to change its output for you. So rather than just going on ChatGPT and saying, write me a blog post or write me a draft of my first bestseller, okay, it will, but you're going to hate it. And if you don't hate it, you're not going to like it. And there's going to be a level of that in between. But let's think about this. If you ask ChatGPT to be a writing coach, to be an editor who has released multiple books in their career, right? You're getting it to think of an output that is exactly like the kind of output that you want. Now it's way different. Now the direction that it gives you, now the context that it fills in, now the questions it may ask you back, they're all going to be more aligned on the output that you want. And this is a multiple stage, multiple level kind of a process. Jake, I'd like to think just similar to what you do when you work with your aspiring authors, right? You ask them those similar questions. But what it's doing is it's helping us get to that output that much faster. It may not know all the tricks. It might not know how to get you to the top of bestseller lists, or maybe it can give you some pointers. But the goal is you're using the right tool to do the right task. Now, another pro tip that I love throwing out there, and this applies for anything long form written copy wise, is add these words to the end of any ChatGPT statement when you ask it for something. And ask me as many questions as you need in order to fully understand my request. I'll say it again. And ask as many questions as you need in order to fully understand my request. What's really cool about that, man, is that what you're doing is you're empowering it to ask you the questions that it has in order for it to understand how to properly respond. Because if you don't empower it, it may just operate off of minimal information. So now let's think about it. Rather than just going to ChatGPT and saying, give me some draft ideas for my first book, which is a totally fair request. I'm not going to lie. I've gone in there and I'd be like, hey, what could you write me a book on? Like, I was never going to go through with that, but it's fascinating to see what's possible. And there's nothing wrong with being curious. But now ask ChatGPT to be a book coach, to be an author, somebody who's already released a book, and give some ideas for what a book topic could be, and ask me whatever questions you need. And the results are wildly different. Now you see where this is going. Now it's going to say, well, tell me about what your passions are. Tell me about how you like to write. Tell me about the feeling that you want. And Jake, this is your zone of genius. So you know what goes into this. This would be similar to starting to go down that process. And you can use that for almost anything. You can do that for email marketing. You can do that for writing an email, a single email to somebody. You can do that to build a standard operating procedure. Whatever it is, when you work with AI in that form, you're really getting into that modality where it understands exactly what it is you're looking for. And then one screen at a time, it'll be a workhorse and it'll just keep supporting you. And then you can keep refining it and keep going with it. So
Yeah.
I can go on this for hours, but that's really the mindset that I want everybody listening to really think about. This is use AI as a truly smart assistant, but empower it to be able to understand exactly what the desired output is that you want back from it. And the results are going to be wildly different.
Amazing. And say the phrase one more time that you think everyone should put at the end of their prompts.
And ask me as many questions as you need in order to fully understand my request.
I love
Or
it.
any variation of that. There's no
Right.
right or wrong, but what you're doing is you're empowering it to ask you a ton of questions. And I love adding that to my prompts because sometimes it'll ask 2 or 3 questions. I'm like, oh, awesome. It knows almost everything that I need. And sometimes it's like, here's 17 questions that I need from you in order to answer this. I'm like, whoa, I'm so glad I didn't just act off of your advice
Right.
because it still didn't understand all that. But think about it as a smart assistant sitting next to you that you've just empowered to be like, all right, I need you to make my life simpler. They're going to be like, great. What would you like me to do? Oh, and
Yeah.
you want me to do that? Okay, here's a list of questions I have for you. If you think about it like that, you can have a much stronger conversation narrative and you'll get a wildly better output.
I love it. I mean, I have not added that previously, and so that's a great tip that I'm going to use right away. I know that for me, I've tried using ChatGPT in a variety of ways when it comes to the book writing process. And one of the best things that I encourage our authors to use ChatGPT for is, and now with the help of what you just said and how you've primed all of us, like they're going to get even better results. But a lot of times you get stuck in the process. Even no matter how much guidance you have, whatever, sometimes you're like, how could I say this in a different way? How could I elaborate on this? What are some other ideas that maybe I'm missing? ChatGPT can help address that and fill in those gaps if you know what question you're trying to ask. Another way that I've done it, I've played around with it, is I've had it break down a whole concept into what could be chapters. What are the key talking points? And kind of helping you navigate the flow and the order based on the knowledge ChatGPT has. We've asked it to create a bunch of marketing headlines. So when you get ready to start pitching your book for podcasts, you can have it give you top marketing headlines or top ways to phrase that, whatever terminology you want to use for whatever it is that you're looking for. So there have been a lot of ways that we've used it, leveraging our book for podcasting, leveraging it for additional ideas, marketing ideas around our book launches, different types of things like that. So I love what you're saying, because now I know, for me at least, I can get much more specific. I can ask it to really take on the persona, and then I can finish with asking me more questions. Right then and there, I've now primed it to be able to give me more concrete and better results based on what I'm actually looking for. So this has been awesome. I can't believe how fast this has already gone by. So let's wrap it up with this here, Jim. Is this AI is coming, and we're going to get your information here in just a second. But the last question is, AI is coming, AI is here. We're exploring, we're trying new things. You did a great job of getting people warmed up and ready. What is the one action item that you'd encourage everybody to do following this to get their feet wet in the AI world?
It's a great question. And the honest answer is it's going to be different for everybody. And the reason I say that is because, yes, there are a lot of authors, there are a lot of those that love long form writing that are probably listening to this right now. There also just might be curious people who they're not ready for that, and that would turn them off. And I just want to be respectful of that. So there's no one size fits all for AI. But what there is a shared curiosity. To go back to that same way that I challenged everybody to think about it before, is be selfish. Is there one thing that every time it comes up on your calendar, you're just like, man, not again. I don't want to do this. Is there that blank whiteboard moment where you don't feel like being creative one day? I would challenge you to think about an AI tool that would simply support that creative process. Now, by the time this recording drops, in the next week or so, I'm going to have a brand, all the sites that I'm putting out there on social media, I'm launching them as a searchable directory. So here's what I would ask you to do. Go to jimcarter.me, and I've got an AI tools section on there. It's a really awesome search I've been building with my team. Every single cool AI site that I find, I do a little write-up of it. I put it all together. I got a screenshot of it. I'm also recording long-form videos on my YouTube channel about how to work with a lot of these. It's gonna take me a while. Like I said, I've got almost 1,000 that I'm putting in there. But if there's one thing that's holding you back, try to find a tool that'll help you just get that one done. Because there's a principle. Remember, I mentioned I'm a retired, recovering software engineer, right? There's a principle in development that a lot of engineers follow. It's the rule of threes. First time you do a task, you do it. The second time you do a task, you do it, but you have more of an awareness of why you need to do it again. Why is it a repeatable thing? The third time that task comes up, and again, we're talking about code, you don't do it. You write a function or a program or a script or some kind of a tool to do it for you, because now you never have to do it more than a third time. And I want everybody to really let that sink in for a minute.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself constantly not releasing your dream bestseller because you don't know where to get started? Well, use ChatGPT to go and, again, act like a creative around fill in the blank of whatever your topic matter is. Give me ideas for really fun ways to tell the story, and it's going to do it. No matter what it is, find a way to use AI to add more value to your life, and you don't have to break the bank to do it. That's what I would encourage everybody to do, is really take a moment and just think about, what could one tool do for me? And it'll change your life.
Awesome. Now you gave us your website here for us to go look at that searchable directory, which is dope, man. That's awesome. Where else can we find you? I know you got a newsletter that you kind of give everyone all this great information around the trends, what's coming up in AI. So how do we join the newsletter? How do we follow you? How do we continue to learn from you in this realm?
Yeah, thank you, man. So I already dropped the website, jimcarter.me. When you're there, you can also just type /newsletter. I just got a section for it right there. If you jump on, spam free. I love serving people by delivering, I call it Top 3 Tuesday. And it's my 3 biggest, the most massive topics, the biggest conversation points that are happening in AI. And what I do is I summarize those, I put them all together, and I relate them to small businesses. So every single one that goes over, this is what's going on, and this is why it matters. And I just love the conversations that come up from that, because I use the tools that I talk about, and I promote them, and I talk about them there. And I just love sharing that with small businesses. You don't even have to own your own business. You could be a director in leadership, or whatever it is, there's going to be something in there for you. So I love serving people by just doing that. It's one of my favorite ways to connect and really get into that. And spoiler alert, I use ChatGPT to help me draft the newsletter. Again, we don't have to overthink anything. But what I've done is I've taken the time to train it on my writing style, what I love, and I put all that together, and I get it all out of my head, and it helps me make sense of it, because my mind is going a million miles a minute. So that's one very real example of a way that you can use AI in your everyday life, and you can still be really proud of the output. You could still make it your own. So that's probably the best ways to connect here. Follow along with the AI stuff. All my social links are linked up from my site. On all the social networks, I'm at Cause Hacker. You can also search for Jim Carter III, and I'm just always posting this stuff, trying to open people up and just see what's possible.
There you go. A man of service and a man of knowledge. I love it. Thanks for coming on, Jim. I appreciate you.
Right, I got you, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course. And for everyone, as you listen to this, look, every first step is different, but you have to take the first step to start. So the first step I'm going to recommend, those of you that just heard, Jim is a wealth of knowledge. Check it out, jimcarter.me/newsletter. Get on the Top 3 Tuesday. Go watch some of his carousels. Go look at some of his carousels, and just take that first step for yourself. Explore, test something out, try it out. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to let Jim know at Cause Hacker on Instagram. And I will see you all on the next time. Peace.